Wi-Fi or go on my phone? Greetings, beautiful beings out there on the social platforms. Trusting that you, wherever you are in the world today, you are finding also an opportunity to not be on the social platforms. As much as I enjoy you watching this video and hopefully receiving something from this video, of course at the moment with what's going on in the world, especially for those of you out there who are in isolation, it can be the only sort of access point if you don't have personal practices of your own to like feel the time can be used up. So today's live is an invitation, just hearing some banging over there, an invitation to come and hang out with us on a webinar, gifted webinar. So for any of you that are new to us, everything we've done way before anything to do with this pandemonium that's sweeping across the planet right now, we've always offered everything from a space of the gift. So we're showing up and doing a webinar on orgasmic yoga. So orgasmic yoga, you might hear, what the hell is orgasmic yoga? There's always a new yoga, right? Yoga this, yoga that. So orgasmic yoga was just a term from Joseph Kramer, who's founded sexological bodywork. And sexological bodywork is a beautiful practice that's client-led and takes the client into their body, into their sexuality, and really into the wholeness of who they are, from their past experiences, the wounds, the traumas, and actually through touch, breath, movement and sound allows you to explore your body with a practitioner of that. And on that training, he had devised this self-pleasure practice along with other sexological body workers, and they called it orgasmic yoga. And orgasmic yoga, really the term yoga was used just for a daily practice, that you can use a number of different choreographies or movements and have a daily practice. So, and the reason for me why I call it is still the yoga's included in this expression, because you mix any practice you have, from qigong, yoga, or any other physical practice you have. I HIIT training, I do dance, Tai Chi, any of those, and you mix them in, with caressing yourself, loving yourself, touching yourself, looking at yourself in the mirror, and exploring your erotic nature, exploring all parts of yourself, including the genitals. And what often happens, maybe some of you are aware of this, that we have this sort of fragmentation. We separate everything when actually we're all interconnected to everything, but we separate things, right? So it's like, I must do my yoga practice, must do my qigong practice, must do my dance practice, must do my this practice. And what's the beautiful thing about this self-pleasure practice that I found, it was one of the treasures from the sexological bodywork training. Once it hit me, I was like, oh my God, this is like, wow. So it's like merging the genitals into the wholeness of your body. So many of you out there, I don't want to assume, because many of you might have your own beautiful self-loving practice, but many people that I've met in the last 18 months since sharing this around the world, write to us and talk about the shame and the guilt they have around sexuality. It's so deep, and many of you may be already aware of how deep that is within our own being, in our conditioning and our society's conditioning and so on and so forth. So, playing with yourself, masturbating, touching yourself, that's a huge taboo. And if you tell people you're doing it, do you do that? It's like we don't. It's like that funny thing always happens in society sometimes, when we talk about sex, and it's still sometimes that secret thing is, do people have sex? Do people do that? Do people actually play with themselves, touch themselves? Is that actually happening? And it's like, oh, and then it gets a bit, a little bit embarrassing and a little bit nervous. And how do you deal with that? Because it's not, necessarily the most common dialogue or conversation. So this webinar that Dara and I want to share with you all is really, if you've been curious about some of the things we've been posting to the Instagram, those of you that come and read and watch and listen to what we share, because there's a lot of people curious out there and they think that this orgasmic yoga program that we put together is just like a 21-day thing that you just do for 21 days, and if you can't do it for 21 days then you can't be involved. Well, it's a misunderstanding, and it's our fault that it's a misunderstanding, because when we launched the program initially it said 21 days self-pleasure experience, and we sort of designed it so that over 3 weeks you could dive into the course and learn some of the breathing exercises and the movement and just the sort of structure of the practice, and then you could continue to do it as often as possible. And that was a bit misunderstood. And now some of you have seen, we've been doing lots of new videos to create a new course, and the new course will be called Go Touch Yourself. Rather than Orgasmic Yoga, it will be called Go Touch Yourself, Self-Pleasure. We're changing the Orgasmic Yoga because it's also a little bit misleading for some people, because like, oh, do I have to be able to do downward dog and, touch myself or whatever? So yeah, if you've been curious about what we're talking about around this whole self-pleasure, heartful masturbation, mindful masturbation, merging the genitals with the heart, if you've been curious, you've seen some of our videos, then come and hang out with us on the webinar. Purely because we're going to take Q&A, we're going to share with you a little bit more about some of the things I've just shared, and a little bit more about the practice and how it's benefited us and how it does still benefit us. And then we're going to take some Q&A from some of the people that have been on the program with us since we launched it last year, and others that are curious. That might be you might be the curious one. Like, what's all this self-pleasure about? How could I hang out? So I'll give you a little nutshell. Hi everyone, if you're jumping on, thank you. I know there's not so many people now. It's very early in the morning in Europe. And I don't know where, of course, many of you are. But for those that are live today, so what can I tell you why this practice impacted my life? So I received it when I was 41. Not that age makes any difference, but so a couple of years, 18 months ago or so. Now I'd have been 42 actually, anyway. No, I wouldn't. I'm a nightmare with timings. So I was right the first time. Why am I mentioning the age? The reason why I'm mentioning the age is that I've rarely masturbated. You're gonna love this. So my thing about masturbation is that from a young age, masturbation was the dirty word. And if you masturbated, nobody spoke about it. I remember some boys going down into the woods in our local community, and they were caught masturbating, and it became this like whole thing, like, masturbating's dirty. And then there was supposedly this old man that used to be in the woods that would be a bit perving, and he would be masturbating sometimes in the woods. So there was always this thing about, if you masturbate, it's a perverted thing to do. Maybe you have that. And so I grew up with this idea that masturbation you did on your own, and if you did it on your own, you had to get it over with as quick as possible. It wasn't a good thing to do, and you don't want anybody to really be knowing. And if I don't want to masturbate, then I need to have a woman. I need to have a woman that I can have sex with. So my quest was like to find as often as possible a sexual experience with a woman in this case. And so, I went on this quest of trying to be the best lover and going out there. And again, very rarely masturbating. Masturbating sometimes, many years ago, I used to drink and take a lot of drugs. So I would sometimes come home drunk and high on cocaine and ecstasy and so on. And, one of the ways to like relieve myself and to come off the buzz a little bit was masturbate. Often I would call it a power wank, and just wank until like I ejaculate and then just, fall asleep. And clean up a little bit and then just get back into bed and fall asleep, because otherwise I'd just be laid in bed buzzing and feeling my heartbeat. So I used it as a tool. You could say I used masturbation as a tool to just release and get it over with. And if I hadn't been having sex for some time, use it as that sort of tool. Maximum. I don't even think I ever masturbated for longer than 5 minutes. And that was probably, if it was 5 minutes, it was only because I couldn't ejaculate, right? Because of intoxication. And it's crazy, right? And touching the body, touching the whole body, caressing the whole body and loving my whole body with touch and presence. No way. Touching the so-called genitals, which I now have a different reframing of what genitals mean, but touching the actual genitals, that was the only place. The teacher of, one of the teachers on sexological bodywork said, the penis here, not the yoni. I call the penis the lingam, okay? For any of you out there, if you haven't heard the word lingam, it's just Sanskrit word for penis. I like lingam more. I don't really like the frequency sound of penis. And also that has a whole energy to it from my past that I don't resonate with. And the woman, the vagina, I call the yoni verse. You'll love this, the yoni verse, because when you enter the yoni verse, you enter space, you enter the void, the nothingness. There's just wonder and mystery through the yoni verse. And of course, you have the lingam verse, the lingam, the saber, the power, jade stalk. Somebody called it in a book that I was reading, the jade stalk. And so, yeah, where was I going with this? I'm off on jade stalks and yoni verses, but I was saying, so she said, the teacher said, the penis is the most touched part of the body, the most touched organ, you could say, right? The most touched was sponge, right? Spongiosis. The most touched part of the body in the least creative and imaginative way. And that makes sense, right? I don't know about those with penises out there, but most people with penises, lingams, it's pretty much friction, that's the move. Not much else going on. Maybe maybe a little tide, maybe a little twist every now and again, who knows. But for me, it was very much like, warm it up and then get it going and then ejaculate and move on to the next. Or move on to the next day or the next moment or sleep. So, Orgasmic Yoga, this program, the choreographies that they shared and the awareness around this reframed everything completely. It was such a profound moment for me, because I've been loving myself physically for many, many years. I've been sharing about self-love and reading about self-love and loving myself, loving the whole planet, loving all those I meet, and really feeling a sense of deep connection to the mystery and the wonder. And if you'd met me 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever, you might have felt that love, and I would have shared with you the many things that I do to love myself, from yoga and dance and meditation and taking care of myself with the way that I eat and bathing myself and caressing my skin with oil and all these things. I've been doing all of this stuff for a very long time, many years. And I love myself and I love the whole. And then when I went on this, it was like another icing on the cake, another reframing, another layer, because it's like, I can bring in awareness, touch, and energy through my lingam, incorporate it into these practices that I've been doing, if I choose to. I don't have to do that all the time. And I can caress myself and explore myself with different ways of touch and different ways of breathing, and build up my erotic energy, my life force energy, my sexual energy, my orgasmic energy, whatever word you want to choose, you can, whatever term serves you. And through the genitals, which I now call the genital generators, through this part, the sexual center, let's call it the lingam, the yoni, through this part that builds up arousal, I can build up arousal, and then I can transmute that arousal into creativity, into life force, into prana, and then project that out into the quantum field, if you want to call it that, the field of creation, whatever term you want to call it. And I no longer need to get, also I used to experience blue balls or pain if I didn't ejaculate. And then it was like, oh, now I've learned how to move energy so it doesn't all stay in my testicles, in my glands, in my sexual center area. Now I can move it around the whole body. So I can have multiple orgasms, I can have energy gasms, I can have nipple gasms, all these different experiences with just gasms, just orgasms, just energy, right? It's a lot of energy that is exerted in the orgasm, the explosion of life force elixir. And of course, look around us, look at the world. This is all, I often say that everything we see, if you want, you could say is God ejaculated, right? Everything is life force elixir, life force energy. So then I can cultivate that in myself. I no longer need to go for the ejaculation, no longer need to go for the outcome. There's nowhere to get anyway, right? So you start to get all this deep wisdom and insights also pouring through you the more you love yourself and the more that you explore yourself and release and transmute, let's say, the resentment, the shame, the guilt, the blame, the conditioning, the false beliefs, and all that stuff that's kept us limited and held us back from loving the being that we are fully. And coming into wholeness, how can we say that we are whole if we are not willing to merge and integrate our genitalia into our whole body? Because most people have that disconnected, right? The love, they can say, I've been exploring this for many, many years with many people. I've been holding retreats and workshops and so on. So I speak with so many people. So I get a little awareness on this from direct experience. There are many people who say they love themselves, but if you start to get them to look in the mirror and look at themselves and see what their relationship is with their genitals and with their sexual path, often it's sort of separate from this other part of them. And when they realize that they're still functioning from those let's say diminished thoughts, feelings and experiences around their sexuality, around the trauma that they've had around their sexuality, then when they realize that that's playing out sort of parallel to this other part of themselves, like a separate part of themselves, if that makes sense, then they merge that in, and that's where we merge the genitals with the heart and we become this whole being where we don't feel shame, where we don't feel guilt, we don't feel we have to justify ourselves to anybody else, or we don't feel embarrassed about our bodies, no matter how they look, how they are, because we love them. And when you love something fully, you see beyond the outer casing of just the mere flesh. But even that becomes part of the whole, that you cannot experience this without that. So you love even that yourself. So you love your shapes, you love your, the things that you judge about yourself. Like, I judge my wonky teeth at times in the past, or I don't have toenails on my big toes, or I have a little flap on my anus where, I had hemorrhoids and it's there. And, all these little things that would normally create this sort of shame or guilt or embarrassment, all of a sudden you're like, you love that part of yourself too. And you bring it in and incorporate it in the whole, because that is the very fabric of your unique expression. Just like this leaf is different from this leaf, even though they look the same. Yeah? We're all just this beautiful, unique expression of diversity. And then you're the flower, but the flower is no better than the leaf. Right? So you see, this is what we're talking about, and this practice, this self-pleasure practice that I just wanted to share this with the world, with everybody. I was like, oh my God, everyone's got to bring this in. How many people do not love themselves in this way? And of course, I took the treasures and the juice from the experience, and then I wanted to share it around the whole world. And that's what we're doing. So I don't know if this touches some of you, resonates with some of you, but trust me, I'm not even trying to sell you anything, right? Because we live in the gift. So everything we do comes from a place of heart to heart funding. I'm wanting to share love around the world. Now, if you are on isolation right now, you are in quarantine, you can't go out, and you're getting caught up in old habits and addictions. Maybe you're drinking some alcohol and food, and maybe you're taking drugs to get through this. Well, let me tell you, we haven't launched the new program yet, the Go Touch Yourself, but the program that's already up has the choreographies, the PDFs, it has everything there. And it's there. You can just listen to the videos of Dara and I and start practicing. And you don't need to overthink it. It's very simple. There's some breath exercise, some movement that we're sharing just to give people some guidance. But once you know the structure of a meditation, set an intention, play with yourself, meditate, reflect with a journal. If you get that structure in and go all out in the exploration, explore your whole body in many different ways. You're going into you. You are God. You are God in the flesh. You're going into you and exploring your wisdom and uncovering the insights and the treasures and the challenges. And you're not relying on anybody outside of yourself. Now that's gold dust. And this is nothing to do with just sharing this message to you because there's a panic-demic going on around the world and people are self-quarantining and being forced to quarantine. And, this is full stop, because regardless of quarantine, we're always in an invisible prison when we're not free in our body. Doesn't matter if we go out to work or we go to different other rooms that are still quite small rooms, but in a different environment, which makes us feel that it's a different place, or we feel free because now we're in this. The only freedom is in yourself, whether you're in the swimming pool or the doctor's surgery or the hospital or your friend's house or, the gym or whatever. The freedom's in here. You might think you're free because it feels like you're getting on your motorbike or car and driving somewhere. So there's a sense of freedom, but it's not freedom. The freedom is only in here. And you're hearing that little message even more at the moment, because all of a sudden everyone's like, fuck, I'm inside. Now I've got to who am I in this little square, box of however big it is, if you're living in the city or some of the places where the apartments, interesting that word, huh? Apartments, where we live apart. We always live apart anyway, in apartments. But then when all of a sudden we're told we're not allowed to go out, then it's like, oh, now we need to go inside. No, you always have been invited to go inside, from me and many other messengers in the world. Because there's only so much outside, but the outside is a reflection and a projection of what's inside. So this practice brings you inside, face to face with your resistance, face to face with your, all of it. Your judgments, your resentments, your projections, your stories, your lies. And actually it takes you to the void, and the void is where you realize that you are none of it. And then that's where the freedom arises, because you realize you're not attached to any of it. So you can continue to peel away the layers as they crumble. And then you're still here, there's still me that calls me, calls me Simon. There's still a few personas, there's a few masks lingering around. But because you're not attached to them, you play with the many different facets that you can without being identified to them. And therefore you become free. Yeah? And this, I say that everybody's often seeking God, or seeking to find their purpose, or seeking something outside. And I say not them, I was too, seeking something outside of ourselves. And at some point, if you listen to many of the messengers and my story, if you want to hear it too, not now, but it goes full circle. If you keep going, comes back to yourself. And I say it comes back, and that God, the elixir of life, has always been with us, hidden in our pants. Just let that sink in. Hidden in our pants, right? We're looking outside everywhere, and all along it was hidden in our pants, because that is where creation came from, right? You and I was created from wonder and mystery that imploded, exploded, and created life, and life force came out. And here we are. And then boom, we run away, or we were told to run away from that point of creation our genitals. We were told to run away. It's bad to be there. You shouldn't be there. Don't talk about that. Don't share your sex. Don't touch your sex. Oh, how dirty you are. Do not orgasm. Do not make noise when you ejaculate. Oh my God, what are you doing? Do that in the dark room silently somewhere and don't share yourself. You all know this. You all know this. That's the story, the old narratives, many narratives mixed into one that has made us think that we are wrong if we want to touch ourselves, or if we want to play with ourselves, or if we want to liberate ourselves beyond all indoctrination. Wow. Is that possible? With these bodies? No need for any stimulants or drugs or outside support? Just me and my body? I have the capacity to tap into that knowledge, that intelligence? Wow. That's where the trip begins. And I tried all the other ways. And all the ways that I've been exploring since all point back here. I was saying it for many years, go within or go without. So this practice invites you to go within and purify and clean and love all of it. Love it all. Face it all, feel it all, and rise. Rise like the phoenix, like an orgasmonaut exploring space. The space of your being. The spaciousness. That's where the freedom comes, yeah? When all of that noise and everything else, the turbulence, the beliefs, the theories, the concepts, the ideologies, all of it, it can be there lingering, but it's not who you are. It's not who I am. Yay! How about that? Just free flowing here, because I wanted to tell you all about this webinar. Love you to come and hang out, learn more, and I'd love you to benefit from this beautiful practice. And as I say again, the program we originally created a year ago, it served its purpose. It's coming to a close. It's still available for any of you out there right now, quarantine in isolation, and wherever you are in the world, regardless of this quarantine and isolation story, that will come to an end. This will pass. The invitation is to go inside, play with yourself, connect with yourself, love yourself, now and for as long as you're in this physical body. You are love. Yeah, there's another thing, I end with this. You are love, right? You hear a lot of people talking about that, yeah? Let's get out of this light. Wow, it's so bright. You hear a lot of people talking about you are love, right? Are you on a call? Sorry. I was on a call over there, look, laying down over the back. So a lot of people talk about you are love. It's a big thing, yeah? Maybe so-called spiritual talk, you know, because what's spiritual? You know, people say, oh, it's spiritual when what? When you've read Eckhart Tolle, or when you've, you know, said OMS 100 times. So that, you know, I don't go down the line of separating different people from different places. We're all divine beings, but there's been many indoctrinations that have told us we're not. Many beliefs and conditioning that have led us believe that we're not. So when we hear this, you are love, it's hard to grasp that at first, maybe for a long time, and maybe some people never ever realized that they were already it. But if you are love, and you fully welcome that in, then in order to really feel that, to really let that be embodied, then so much has to peel away. And then you realize you are it. You laugh, there's a laugh, right? There's a cosmic joke at that moment. That's where sometimes the cosmic chuckle comes, because you could never have not loved yourself anyway. That was part of the delusion. Because you can't ever not love that which you are, because that which you are is that what you are. You can't, it's like, you know, saying to this pole right now, don't be a pole. It is what it is right now, but we know when you look deep at this pole, it's not just pole, right? So much more than just what we see. And this practice, when you go into yourself, you have the potential to uncover that. But it's not just that you're going to go and do this practice once or twice and become super orgasmic, multi-orgasmic, and all of a sudden everything's great and you love yourself, because there's many layers for some of you out there. There's many layers for me. I'm stripping them away all the time. 43 years old. Exploring myself more, let's say more deeply, looking inside and being a light unto myself for, many years of this inquiry, this hero's journey. So I'm not trying to proclaim that you're going to do this course, this practice once or twice, but I've been exploring this over hundreds of times now. And all I can say is it's been, for me, I can only speak for myself, it's been a beautiful contribution to celebrating my existence. That's all. That's it. It's like when you realize you're already it, you then play. There's only play left. So, who better to play with than yourself? It's not narcissistic, it's not wrong, it's not selfish. On some level, somebody might go, well, it is selfish, and the selfishness leads to selflessness. Because when you really, really love yourself in this way, the only one thing that's left is service, sharing it with the world. You can't feel this amount of love, awe and wonder and not share it, because look around. It's being shared all the time. It's like a natural byproduct of the experience of love is to share it. It's not a choice, not a question. Love has no price tag. Love just keeps giving, never stopped. And even the word love dissolves as well, because humans gave it the word love. They named it love, but we are part of that whole thing, right? We're the interconnectedness of everything. So it's like, it's all the thing experiencing itself, naming itself, throwing it all out there. And then you go, oh, wow, I'm just part of this whole big cosmic soup. It's such a trip. Oh my God. There's nothing left to say, nothing left to do. And then things happen, It's just like things start happening. Wow, can you get all that just from playing with yourself? No expectations, no guarantees. Or your money back, 30 days, your money back guarantee. So come and hang out with us. You might hear some of this, what I've already shared, and we're going to take some questions, and it's going to be awesome. So there will be you have to come onto the webinar link, so you have to go to the link, which I think I can put in the comments of this, or if you're on Facebook, on Dara and Simon, on Facebook, I created an event there as well. So many of you probably have Facebook as well. If you're receiving this today and you're in your isolation, you're feeling low, do whatever you can today just to love yourself. Play with yourself, not just in the old way. Do something different. Dance, dress up. Let the imagination soar. Thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and sending you love wherever you are on this beautiful, mysterious spaceship. Ciao. End. Look, it's so funny on the screen. I got live, it says live of course, live and end. Life and death right here. Always in our face, life and death. Now I'm going to end. I'm going to die to this call and arise somewhere else. Ciao.